Good morning and welcome to the Message Talk Show with host Alex Gordon, beaming out of the sunny place called London. I don't know if you call London sunny, but hey, we have a very special broadcast, another special broadcast with another special guest in-house today. You come across people and you think, I must interview that person. I must interview that person. And from last year, this lady was on card to come on the interview. But you know how it goes. When people live busy lives, it's hard to track them down. So today we have in-house a very special guest by the name of Leila Grant. How are you, Leila?
Oh, good, thank you, Alex. How are you today?
I am extra fine today, It's been an amazing week and we're celebrating, I think it was International Women's Day this week, yes?
Honestly, at work, we had an email that went around which said we got a free book. So I ended up purchasing 3 books, which is just to celebrate people that are doing well within the female careers. So
Wow.
It was a really good book to read.
It shouldn't just be International Women's Day. It should just be International Women's Year, wouldn't it? It should just have been the whole year for the contribution that women make to the society in which we live, to the households, to the community. Yeah. There's nothing that can operate without women at all. Nothing.
So we still have a long way to go for equality in the workplace, for example, more flexibility for women. However, I do think it's nice that we are celebrated for, even if it is one day. I do love.
Okay, you don't mind just taking the one day, yeah? You're happy for one day, eh? Yeah. There's me trying to give you a whole year. And you just pull me back. Okay, you're happy for the one day, my sister. We could have led a whole campaign for this 1 year, you know? You never know.
It's like Mother's Day and Father's Day. Appreciation.
Yeah, okay. Today we have a city professional, Leila Grant, in-house, coming to spend time with us and to share her experience about maximizing her leadership ability in the workplace, in a profession. And one of those things, leadership is not easy. Leadership is one of those big keywords, big buzzwords around, but there's so much that is demanded from you. And especially when you're working in a city and you're developing that life. But before we jump into that, Leila, tell us who you are. Introduce yourself.
Yeah, so I'm Leila. I love to play badminton. Let's not talk about work initially. I love to play badminton and netball, so I'm quite sporty. I am 30 years old. I am a mother and I work in the city. Recently come back from maternity leave and I'm enjoying it. So I work as a finance business partner and have a lot to share.
You said you're enjoying city life.
I am. The roller coaster of it, yes.
Wow. So how do you manage the work schedule?
It's a challenge, especially in the pandemic, because obviously you have to become your own IT person in terms of setting up the computers. So I have 3 screens, but I have 2 laptops as well.
So you're using all these computers?
Yeah. At one time. And then finding a place where it's silent and then you're not distracted from home life, even cleaning, washing up, etc. You've got to put that aside and just think about work for the set hours. But then obviously sometimes you can be distracted from home. But yeah, it's hard to sometimes switch off. So it's an extra difficulty, but also it's been nice to have the flexibility to work from home because then obviously you can have the TV on in the background if you wanted.
And you're not dashing from the office to get home. You're just stepping from one room to the other. Yeah?
Exactly. I don't think anyone's missing the commute right now. That's for sure. Time was the worst.
So I guess you're hoping that after this period that we go through, that the employer will be a bit more flexible and say, just continue to work from home.
Yeah, well, actually, they have. They've been more open to the fact that we can work from home. Before they were like, no, this can't happen. But then since the pandemic, they realized actually we can still function if people work from home. So they're actually making it possible for everyone to have 3 days in the office and 2 days working from home. So that's the hope when we go back. We will continue to be flexible, yeah.
So some good has come out of this period.
Exactly.
Good has come out of it, you know?
Exactly. And I think the fact that people are juggling being parents in a pandemic, taking them to school, etc., they realise people are still finding time to work, even though they have to do the school run or do homeschooling. whatever that may be as well.
Yeah, because my kids are, I haven't got any young kids in school at the moment.
Yeah.
It's years ago since they've left school and
Mm.
out of university. But I never really understood the dynamics of homeschooling. I never understood it until my friends started to explain to me about homeschooling and the demands of homeschooling when you've got young children. How do you find it?
My little one's only 8 months old. So I don't need homeschool.
So you started early homeschooling. Okay, yes, I get the message. I get the message. Yes, 8 months old, so the demands are not quite good. I've spoken to people who've told me that the demands of having a 10-year-old, 11-year-old around the house and homeschooling, and then they want to play, and then they want to go outside, and they want to go to the park.
And then you start to work.
Yeah, and then they want to meet their friends.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It's such a challenge. And it's okay if they've got a garden, if they've got an outside garden or a park nearby. But if they have none of those amenities around them, it's all hell breaking loose. Wow.
Yeah. And I'm on the committee for the Working Parents group. And one of the ladies said to the organizer, how do you keep your house so tidy when you've got a 3-year-old daughter? And she said, oh, you haven't seen the other side of the room.
Wow.
Yeah,
challenge. But hey, we're living through the challenges. So tell us, who are you, Leila? What defines you? How do you define yourself?
How do I define myself?
Yeah.
I've always been quite independent, but since being in a relationship, I would say you have to learn to be independent, but also be dependent in some aspects as well. Yeah. It's a balance. It's knowing that what I bring to the table is valuable and appreciated at the same time. What defines me? I love numbers. I like to make sense of numbers. So I did a maths and economics degree at university, a Russell Group University. And basically I've learned through my 10 years working in the city what my skills, what my strengths are, because sometimes the workplace will say, oh, you're really good at coding. That's what you should do. However, I don't really enjoy coding. So although I've become very good at it, it's not something that I enjoy. That's not really my passion. I like to make numbers make sense to the end user. So I like something that's more commercial because I'm quite entrepreneurial as well. So I've had to go through different roles in my life to work out what my strengths are.
Wow. You must be good at coding. For them to turn around and tell you, ask you to do coding, you are not just some novice. You're not just some novice. Come to coding.
This is the thing. I wouldn't call myself an IT guru, but I would say I've been able to write scripts and macros to make my job more efficient. So, as
if the ordinary man out there can just write some code and some macros to make their job all efficient. That's amazing. That's an amazing skill.
There's better people out there in terms of being able to do apps and websites. I'm not that skilled.
You're not that skilled, but you can make something work better.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. So what got you where you are today? Because you said you did a maths degree. You love crunching numbers. That makes me think, right, accountancy is around the background somewhere.
Yeah,
exactly. Where you are today.
So if we start from being at school, really, I've always had an interest in maths. And then I also did an entrepreneurial project where I sold personalized roses on Valentine's Day. So I raised some money, about £500. Wow. I changed the classroom to a floral shop. And that was my first entrepreneurial activity. I got a whole team, which was my friends, essentially, to basically set up a floral shop. So we personalized the roses, put sleeves on, and then wrote little cards, etc. And then I went on to do A-levels in maths, business, psychology, and English. And people say, oh, that's a weird mix. And I say, yeah, because I am creative. I like writing and I like numbers. And I don't think you need to pigeonhole yourself, So I felt like I had the best of both worlds. And then from there, I thought, okay, what am I going to do for university? I thought, okay, my strengths are maths and business. I thought, okay, let's do maths and economics. And then from my university experience, I did an internship in an insurance company for 2 summers. And that was my first entry into the city, really. Oh, and I did a work experience at KPMG. And then from that, I thought, okay, I don't think I want to be an accountant from what the KPMG lot do, because I just thought, I'm not sure if I want to do any more exams after university. And then I had my first graduate role within insurance. And then I realized, no, this is not dynamic enough for me, because it's not moving with the markets. You don't really know what's going on in the news. And I missed that, because I did try and do some trading in university while I was there. So I thought, okay, maybe I want to be a trader. And then I tried to get into trading with not much success. So I thought, okay, maybe that's not the path for me, but I still want to work in that industry. So I moved to a capital markets firm, and then realized from then that I didn't really want to be a trader based on what they do. So I studied the ACA, the Chartered Accountancy exams, simply to get a good grounding and commercial foundation. And I think it's very useful. It's one of the most transferable skills, right?
That's like another business degree in itself.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, it's definitely given me good grounding for understanding how the business world works. But yeah, that's how I got here, essentially.
So since you threw the name in the capital markets, what is capital markets? What does it do? How do you explain to the ordinary person what capital markets are?
Yeah, so you have, say you've got a marketplace, you've got a buyer and a seller. Essentially, you have someone that wants to buy anything within the investment market. So it could be FX. So commonly in the retail market, we know it's FX, but in the capital market industry, there could be rates that are sold, which is like interest rate swaps. So you've got bonds, which is debt, and then you've got equity funding. There's equity options as well. So there's a lot of financial instruments that could be bought and sold essentially at a certain price. And every day they're making market prices. They're setting market prices, and people are buying and selling at that price. Essentially, supply and demand curve plays into how it goes up and down in terms of the chart. Yeah, there's a lot to it, but at the same time, it's quite short term. It's a short-termist view. If you want to do more long-term, you would buy equities. And I wasn't in equities when I was working in the capital markets sector.
Right.
I was more working on like FX. And then I realized actually there's not really much of a career trajectory. It's just quite flat.
Right.
And yeah, as much as exciting as, say, if there's a boom or a recession or the American or UK elections, you see a lot of volume activity. But other than that, you know, it's the same old.
Let me just decode for the public here. So we're talking about financial instruments. We're talking about products that are attached to the FTSE 100 companies out there, raising finance, pushing monies around the world, pushing commodities around the world, buying stuff, trading. It is such a complex world, but it all happens at someone's desk.
Yeah, with many screens.
This screen controlling the world. But you know what I've seen recently? In the past 2 years, in the past 5 years, this thing about cryptocurrency and Bitcoins. And then in the last 12 months, I have just been hijacked with people trying to tie me down for Bitcoin. You know what I mean? I need to get into this, need to get into that. I'm thinking, hey, hang on, man, please give me some space here. I'm not a Bitcoin person, but there's a craze at the moment for Bitcoin.
Yeah, and it's interesting because about a couple of years ago, people were like, oh, what one to choose? And a lot of the city were like, no, you don't want to touch cryptocurrency because it's not regulated. And there are ones out there where, you know, people are losing money, but essentially all trades, all securities, FX equities, it's all risk. So it depends on how risk taking you are and how much research you do into the cryptocurrency that you invest in.
The crazy thing about it, what's happening at the moment, because there's a craze about it at the moment, there's a fanatic that it's come down to the average person in the street saying to you about Bitcoin. It means that it's driving its own price high. It's driving itself because there's this craze about it. And
exactly. It is a supply and demand thing, isn't it? So the more interest it's getting, the more the price goes up. Yeah, definitely. It's not gonna go.
At some point, these things have a way of correcting themselves.
Yes.
These products have a way of correcting themselves, and if you're not prepared for it, you can lose a lot of money here.
You can, but yeah, I wouldn't invest ever in something that you aren't afraid to lose. It's important to say, okay, can I risk that money and be okay with that? But if it's an upside, it's got a potential to make a lot of money. So people that were early into the Bitcoin have done very well. So yeah. So it's all...
So you have to have some sort of risk profile to yourself to know that, okay, if I'm going to lock this money, I can afford to lose it if anything happens.
Exactly.
If it doesn't, if it goes up, it's a bonus.
Yeah.
So don't mortgage your house and then put the money in.
It's like pensions as well. The price, we don't know what the value of the pension will be in the future, but we hope that it will grow. The way to see it is you're investing in your future, and the more diversified it is, hopefully it will pay off eventually.
But then again, pensions also tied to financial products, aren't they? So
they're
tied to the major big companies and the FTSEs. So I was going to say the risk of the big companies failing, but look at what's happened in the pandemic.
Wow.
So
lots of things.
There are no guarantees anywhere. You could be trading for 100 years, 200 years, and suddenly something happens in the economy and you're dead. Your disappears.
Especially if you're not prepared or not willing to change with the times.
Yes. Okay, and that leads me into why we're here today, because you have to be prepared to change with the times. And that drives me into saying that leadership is one of those things that's constantly evolving. How do you see leadership in the environments in which you work?
How do I see leadership in the environment I work? So I would say in the company I work for now, they're very key in driving change and adapting their processes to be more efficient, but also to be more sustainable. I've also been in a firm where they've been very short-termist, and it's all about how much profit they're making within the year. But what about 5-10 years time? And I think it's important for us in the community, for example, to think, okay, what is the legacy? Is it a short-term gain, or is it you want to have customers for a lifetime, for example? So I think in work, it's important to manage what's going on in the world. For example, racial equality, gender equality. There's going to be a look into gender pay gap. And some people are already saying, okay, let's look at the revenue and how we can try and mentor women to the board positions, for example. So it's also being an advocate for change. I think it's quite important.
But then the way I constantly see leadership, and especially with companies who are trying to evolve, is that you're preparing the workforce for the future. You're preparing leaders to take your company to the next level. You're preparing new minds, new generation of minds coming in to take the company to another level. So therefore, it shouldn't be caught up in gender equality or any of those things, because it's the best people for the job all the time, is it not?
Yeah, it should always be the best people for the job, but then there's still a lot of bias within the workplace. There's a lot still that happens, and I think sometimes you need to have targeted measures to advocate the change. For example, there's a program called, I think, 10,000 Black interns in the city. So into financial services, they're trying to help get more Black people within the workplace within London, because they realize actually sometimes it is about a foot in the door. Otherwise things won't change. Otherwise there won't be racial equality in the city. A lot of firms have realized this and are backing that, and they're working together to try and combat the lack of diversity within the workplace. In my old workplace, in the front office roles, there were 95% men and 5% female. And that still happens, and they didn't encourage those 5% of women to stay, because really you're just someone they don't really know anyway. Yeah, so you think, okay. And then even if you put race on top of that, you'll see even less, probably 0.5% of a diverse background in the front office, which is a shame.
Wow. But does it mean that certain industries by their very nature tend to attract more men, especially white men, than anyone else?
Yeah.
It's like a closed door policy, because if I let my mates in and the guys I went to school with, the guys I went to university with, and just keep that cycle going, then there's no doors for anyone else to come through.
Exactly. And that's part of the reason why I don't think I became a trader in the end, because it was just white males even still, most traders is 99% white male still. And I think also there's a lot of money in that area in trading within the city. But again, sometimes it is who you know still, but it's also, are we aware of the opportunities that are there?
Yeah. So,
and are they just targeting certain universities, for example, that are the Oxbridge candidates?
Wow.
Yeah.
So anywhere that, if you follow the money trail, that's where it is, isn't it? Anywhere the money is, that's where the inequalities are.
More so, I'd say, because because I think they're less resistant to want the change.
Yeah.
They're
So
more
maintaining the infrastructure that pleases a certain group of people.
Exactly.
And make sure that they just reinforce and they play the game the way they want to play the game.
Yeah.
But there was something you said which I found interesting, because you said that we also have to be aware of the opportunities that are out there. And if you're not aware, you can't go forward for them. And no one's going to beg you to come forward for something that's sitting there if we're not pushing ourselves forward as well. What made you think of that?
I think it's getting better in that there's WhatsApp where people forward opportunities that are happening within the workplaces. But I do think sometimes we're just not aware of those opportunities, simply because I think maybe people from white communities have been brought up knowing that they could go into the city and do work experience, for example, and then they can put that on their CV. But also for me, I was at a sixth form, which was very well known as like one of the top in the borough, and they had a chief actuary come and do a talk about what they do as actuaries. But a lot of people maybe in our community don't really like maths and don't want to do that. So then when she came, I took her details and then I emailed her just to say, do you have any work experience? And that led me to the 2 summers to work for them after I did a week work experience with them. Wow. So it's just about...
Let me stop you there then, because what made you do that? Because that was different. You took the initiative to contact her and ask her for work experience.
Yeah, I did, because it's not often that you get to meet people like that, who's easily probably on, at the time, this was over 10, 15 years ago, but she was probably easily on 200k a year plus, but she didn't have to help me, but she had responsibility. She had about 30 people under her at the time.
Wow.
She's now retired quite earlier in her life, but that kind of opportunity made me realize I didn't want to be an actuary, but at least I had the chance.
It exposed you to something that you would never have not seen before.
Exactly. And if I didn't go to that sixth form, maybe then I wouldn't have ever heard about being an actuary.
Wow. I don't know where you're joining us today from. I don't know where you're listening from. It could be good morning, it could be good afternoon or good evening. We're here today talking about maximizing our leadership opportunities, maximizing our leadership ability in our careers, in our jobs, in our workplace. And I have Leila Grant in-house talking to us today. And she's been one of those persons who, as an individual, has been charting her way. When the path is not quite clear, there is no prime minister buddies that you went to school with or Eton comrades, that you went to school with, and that just calls you up and say, hey, there's a position going in this financial services organization or whatever, put your application in. But you've been one of those who opened your mouth, and you've pointed that out from a very early age. You've opened your mouth to ask for the opportunities. And sometimes we're missing it because one, we don't know about it, and 2, when we are aware, we don't push ourselves forward.
Yeah.
And that's part of leadership development as well. Not pushing ourselves forward, not taking the bull by the horn, somehow feeling so fearful that we can't push ourselves. What has kept you moving as an individual?
To be honest, maybe I've always had an innate belief in my leadership potential. So I was head girl at high school, simply because I knew that I got on well with the kids at school and then also the teachers. So I thought, okay, let me apply. And then I got the head girl position. So from then, I've been able to manifest that at work by just being a supportive colleague in terms of helping them even learn how to do Excel shortcuts and not necessarily need the mouse, just use the keyboard for everything. But also being able to mentor others throughout, even at work. I've always, if I've seen a role that's available and then I think a friend would be good for it, I've definitely always forwarded a CV over. Some of my friends have had work experience at the places I've worked at. So even just giving that opportunity for someone that wouldn't have heard of it at all.
Wow. So you're a door opener. You're one of those people who like to open doors for other people.
Yeah.
You don't close it behind you.
No, I don't want that, because everyone needs a helping hand to get to where they are. I have a mentor at work just recently, and she's like the head of client development, but she's done very well. And she's part of this senior management network. We're always trying to see ways that we can help one another to learn more and share knowledge, because I've been at a workplace where they didn't want to share any information with me. They wanted to share it with other males within the team, but not me as a Black female. So I think
you didn't take it personal.
No, I've learned actually to get more thick-skinned through my.
But you see, but that points me to something else here, because you sound like someone, and I probably know for a fact as well, that there's a community side of you. That's why you're a door opener. There's a community side of you. That's why you're such a door opener, looking out for other people, helping is there an opportunity for someone else out there? Tell us a bit about the community stuff that you've been doing and you have done in the past.
So I've worked as part of the advisory board for Black economics. So there's a project, for example, where there is a charity that want to build a school in Ivory Coast. So we're basically supporting them to work out their budget, their costing, but also their plan and how we can raise money, funding through other charities that are doing that, for example, Red Cross. So just a partnership. Yeah, go on.
Before you go to the Ivory Coast then, but tell us what Black economics is in this country.
They're basically a portal, information portal, to understand what's going on within the Black community through news shared, through events that are provided. It gives it, and through now a YouTube channel called Black Economics TV, where they basically have people from different walks of life from the Black community just share knowledge with not just the Black community, but everyone. And because basically they do have a story and they have a positive story to share. And I think that's the aim of Black economics. So there's a lot of voluntary work I have been doing, but
that's where your leadership skills are really honed.
Yeah, exactly.
You're doing things you don't get paid for, but you hang in there and you help.
Yeah, it's a passion, and it manifests itself within work. Once you have a passion, your potential in other areas, it makes work more meaningful.
Wow. So Black economics is a portal that's helping the Black community navigate itself, organize itself. Like a centralized place to come for information, to disperse information, and to disperse opportunities as well.
Exactly. And they have a WhatsApp group as well where we are sharing information and also having lots of discussions, hopefully to progress the economic potential of the community long term. That's the aim.
We've not had one of those before. We've not had one of those before.
No.
As a central portal.
Yeah. The US, I think they're definitely more forward in the fact that they have that, but the UK
there with America, you can't. America's had 400 years of history behind it with the Black community.
But they also have a lot more wealthy Black individuals that are able to give back. So look at LeBron James and those type of people. They're definitely investing more within the community, and that's really the aim.
I think in this country, what sometimes and what you're saying is really important about centralized information. What we lack here a lot is information about what our top end of the market are doing. Our top 1% of the Black community, or top 1% earners, top 1% footballers, top 1% sports stars, top 1% entertainers. We lack information about what they're doing and how they are supporting and how they're making things happen. And I always think, what the top guys are doing, it spurs the bottom along, thinking, wow, these guys are giving back.
You also realize, are they actually supporting?
Well, this is it. You don't know.
Get to a place, I think a lot of the time, especially the footballers, they get to a place of that level and sometimes they don't give back. Now we're hearing of it that they are, like Marcus Rashford, for example. But usually, does it go back to the community? Very rarely.
Yes. But now we have portals. See, because I think one of the most important things is having structure in place, having some sort of structure that things can be channeled through. Where there is no structure, then there's no information and there's haphazardness. And sometimes people get burnt by different things. They get burnt by opportunities that went wrong, and therefore it sometimes affects their decisions about what they do in the future or who they work with. So no, this is a really good thing about the Black economics, and it sounds great. You're a young person, you're pushing out there, and you're making waves, man. You're making waves from your 30s, man. You're making waves. Wow. What would you say to other young women out there now? Because you're like a trailblazer for a generation behind you. What would you say to other young women out there now?
I would say, so say if you're in secondary school, I would say to choose a variety of subjects and not limit yourself too early on. And then say when you get to sixth form, if you have an interest, yes, people like to specify in one area, for example, the sciences, that's great. But I still think it's good to have a wider perspective of everything that you're doing. Read a lot and read a variety. And then when it comes to your 20s, when you get a workplace that you want to grow in, I definitely think it's important for you to learn as much as you can. It's not a race. You're not going to make a manager within 2 years. But within...
I want success now.
It's not a race, but you will get there. And you also, have an opportunity to maybe not do the most exciting work, but everything that you do learn is important for the long term, and it shapes your career for the long term. So just enjoy everything you do with 110%, really. Be true to yourself. Sometimes you have to work out who you are. And that
takes time.
That takes time, and to work out what your skills are. So like I mentioned earlier, people said I was good at coding and data and analyzing that, but then I didn't enjoy it at all. So
how did you get exposed to that then? How did you get exposed to that? You knew you didn't like it, but how did you get exposed to that?
Yeah. For my first graduate, my manager, he was very good with Excel. So he would basically teach me all these shortcuts, and he spent time with me, I think the first couple of weeks, just giving me little hour lessons, and I went off with that.
Can I ask the question there? Is that manager black or white?
He was white male, yeah. So most of the time I've had white male managers.
So there's some good white guys out there then, yes?
Oh, yeah,
who are prepared to help. Hey, that's awesome.
Yeah, there is. Definitely there is. And you do find within the city, you have to find those that are supportive, because there's a few that aren't, and it's very clear.
Yes, they make no mince about it, yes.
And sometimes it's indirect. It's because of the fact that I'm a black female. Yeah, you just have to be able to navigate that, as it can be a challenge, but it can also be an opportunity to stand out. And then also don't be afraid to voice your ideas. I've been told once to keep humble when I talk.
My God, you've been told to keep humble.
Yeah,
wow. What did they mean by that? What did they mean by that?
So one of my managers was a executive director. So he just, because there was a developer because I was managing a product, and one of the developers was giving me a hard time. He was basically saying I should basically try and keep quiet and not aggravate, even though I wasn't being an aggravating person, but because the lead developer just didn't like me. He just didn't like me, full stop.
Wow. So rather than them having a word with the lead developer, they're saying to you, just keep quiet.
Yeah.
Just basically. Know your lane. Know your lane. Stay in your lane. Stay in your lane.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, to be told that, because I thought actually with his position, he never needed, and he's very well spoken, he has a lot of intelligence.
And that's what some people don't quite understand. When you have never lived through a certain position, when you haven't experienced what other people experienced in life, you can never talk for them. Some people don't have the empathy for that because it's not in them. So you have to allow people to give their opinion and to tell you how they feel about something, because you can't put yourself in their position.
Yeah, but that kind of opens you up to the culture, right, of that company. You know, it's quite. This is the one where there was 95% male, so basically they don't want us to talk. They don't want us to speak.
Wow.
So,
wow.
Yeah.
This takes me back on our closing question here too. You said something that it's important to know who you are.
Yes.
And for me, when people are making statements like that at you in your workplace about humbling yourself and knowing your lane and pushing your back, and you're navigating all of this, you've done the degree, you've done the work. Knowing who you are has to come from some sort of base whereby in your belief system, in the mechanisms around you, for your parents even, to help you to define yourself.
Yeah, 100%. It's taken a lot. And sometimes I've had to take a break from the workplace because, like, from transition to a new role, simply because I need to focus on what it is I want to do. Because there's a lot of people that will tell you what they think you should be doing. But actually, you know yourself better, and you need to work it out for yourself. But also, in your experiences, just try and acquire that specialist knowledge, because I think it's important, especially with the white males. They make sure that they have a niche, and once they have that niche, they tend not to want to share that information. They want to keep their position.
They know how to work the markets. They know how to play the game. They've been playing the game a lot longer, so they know how to play the game. They know how to get themselves in those positions, and therefore, yes, this is my show.
Definitely. So
we're still learning. We're still understanding and encouraging talking to you today. As a young person, as a young individual, as a young Black woman, and that's so important. I was having an interview this week where a gentleman was talking that a school teacher said to him that you will never, a group of Black boys in the East End, and the statements that was made to them, that you guys will never go to university. You'll never get to university. And can you imagine statements like that made into a young person from that age? And you have to be, your mental capacity and belief system has to be so strong to navigate that.
Yeah, no, very true. You have to
be strong
to know that you're going to achieve more than what they expect.
But I know that you're a strong Black woman. You're a strong Black woman, navigating, making things happen, and talking about Black economics, and that's empowering for me. That shows that there's a future for us in this country still. There's a future for us to make things happen, because now we're beginning to pool resources and pool ideas to get ahead. Leila, I just thank you for coming on the show today. It's been a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you, Alex.
If there was one word, if there was one word you want to put out today as you close, what would that be? Or one sentence?
I would say to just learn as much as you can. Learn as much as you can and add value, and just always be positive. There's always an opportunity out there. Don't limit yourself.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen, Leila Grant says, always be positive. Don't limit yourself. Don't limit yourself, because you know what? You've got so much inside of you. And if some people can't see the potential, hey, that's their problem. Hey, isn't it, Leila? That is their problem if they can't see the potential. So anyone says to you, humble yourself and stay in your lane, Leila says, know yourself. Hey, let me go to our sponsor before we close. You are listening to the Message Talk Show and Podcast. Do you believe you have something to share? Do you believe you have something to contribute? Do you have a story to tell the world, to share with your community? Gandhi said, man often becomes what he believes himself to be. If you think you can, if you think you can't, you can't. So join us on the Message Talk Show and Podcast with host Alex Gordon. Are there any events coming up that you think people should know about? Anything that's coming up that you think should be worth going to or worth tuning into?
I would say I'm actually reading. I was going to say some books that people could read if they want to try and get ahead in their career. One's called How Women Rise.
Rise?
Yep, and the other one's called Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office.
That's another interview. That's another interview. Say that one again and say who the author is.
So this Nice Girls Still Don't Get the Corner Office is by Lois P. Frankel, and I haven't started it yet. I just got this on for International Women's Week, but
Wow.
it sounds amazing. I'm just looking at the contents and I'm just
I know,
like,
look at it.
yeah. And then How Women Rise is by Sally Helps.
Wow. Hey,
Yeah.
so 2 books you need to tune into, ladies. How Women Rise. And guys, if you want some education here, read the book How Women Rise. And Nice Girls Don't Get the Corner Office. Now, that is a great book.
And follow Black Economics TV and the Black Economics website if you want to find out more about things that are going on in the community and events.
Black Economics TV, and that's in YouTube? Just type in Black Economics TV? Yeah?
Yeah, correct.
And the website for Black Economics?
blackeconomics.co.uk.
Leila, thank you so much for tuning in today, and it's great having you on the show today. While we say goodbye to everyone else, thank you.
Thank you, everyone.